The Clockmaker's Apprentice. In the old quarter, where gulls cried over the river and cumin hung in the air, stood a clock shop with windows that blinked like owls at night. Master Ahmad repaired clocks no one else dared to touch, cathedral giants with tired chimes, travel clocks with sand still trapped inside, pocket watches that remembered wars and weddings. His apprentice, Khalid, had been a street boy once, quick with his hands and quicker with excuses. Ahmad took him in, not because he needed help, but because the boy had a way of listening to silence. Clocks are the art of measuring regret, Ahmad said. We fix them so people can forgive their days. One winter, a nobleman brought a grand chronometer, an inheritance that had stopped years ago. It belonged to my grandmother, he said, voice clipped. Fix it. I want it running by the equinox. He paid half upfront, a sum that could keep the shop warm for months. Farid took the assignment eagerly, eager to prove himself. He polished gears, aligned escapements, replaced a delicate spring. When he wound it, the hands began to move, then jerked, stuck, and slipped back. He tried again, stubbornness tightening his jaw. Night fell, he kept at it. Ahmad watched from his bench. What is time for? He finally asked. For moving forward, Farid snapped, eyes on the stubborn hands. For remembering, Ahmad said. Sometimes both at once. Days passed. The equinox neared. Farid discovered a hairline crack in the main wheel, invisible until light hit it just right. The part was rare, ordering one would take weeks. He could hide the flaw with glue, perhaps, it might run long enough to pass the nobleman's inspection. He held the cracked wheel between finger and thumb. The shop felt very large around his small decision. That evening, a woman entered with a kitchen clock cheap enough to be disposable. It ticks too loudly, she apologized, as if her poverty made sound. Ahmad set it gently on the counter. We'll soften its voice, he said. Fried's hands moved of their own truth. He wrote to the supplier for the correct wheel and told the nobleman the truth the next morning. It will be late, he said, swallowing. But it will be right. The nobleman's face hardened. I'll take my business elsewhere. Of course, Farid said, shaking. When the man turned to go, Ahmad spoke, we keep time here. Not lies. Winter bit harder. The order book thinned. Farid hated his choice in the cold pre-dawn hours. But on the first day of spring, the spare part arrived. He fitted it like a word finally finding its sentence. The chronometer sang softly when wound, a purr, then a steady beat that made the shop's shadows look less lonely. The nobleman returned, curiosity overcoming pride. He listened to the clock, and something unclenched in his brow. My grandmother used to fall asleep to this sound, he said quietly. He paid the full fee without reminder and, after a moment, placed a smaller watch on the counter. This one was hers, too. It loses 2 minutes a week. When the door closed behind him, Farid sat down hard. We almost froze, he said to Ahmad. We almost lost the shop. Ahmad poured tea. We almost lost ourselves, he corrected. Instead, we kept the time that matters. Years later, when Ahmed's eyesight dimmed and Farid took his place at the bench, a new apprentice swept floors, quick with excuses. Farid handed him a cracked gear kept in a velvet pouch. This, he said, is the cost of honesty and its reward. Moral: doing what's right may slow you down today, but it is the only way to keep perfect time with your conscience.